Testing 1, 2, 3. Warning, the following video may contain adult language and themes. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. If you have a problem with this, stop playing this video now. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You had your chance to back out. No turning back now.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I just got done watching Student Bodies from 1981. This is a strange little title. About two-thirds of it, which are the beginning two-thirds, the beginning two-thirds is a spoof on horror movies. It's a precursor to the modern-day scary movies. But it's pretty bad. It's way worse than the scary movies. The jokes are either somewhat amusing or just really bad. In fact, there were only about 4 jokes that made me chuckle. The first one was where a person in a wheelchair takes the parking spot of a blind man. And then the blind man says, hey, and blind man driving a car, which is, kind of scary in the first place and probably is a bad joke in itself, but the blind man says, hey, you took my parking spot. And the wheelchair guy says, hey, I can never love a woman, make love to a woman. And the blind man says, well, I can't find one. So that sort of made me chuckle, but still, it's kind of a bad joke. The next joke, a girl who goes to the high school that's in this horror movie says, I will always be beautiful. And then another girl says, so what's your secret? And then she says, cyanide. I'm going to kill myself before I turn ugly. And that sort of gave me kind of a chuckle. And then the third one was where the principal is at this parade, the principal of the school, and he said, and there had been a few murders before this, and he basically says, this parade is in honor of all these senseless killings that need to stop. Can't we just have a murder that makes sense? I mean, come on, that's a little funny. And then the fourth and final, somewhat chuckle-worthy moment is right in the middle of the movie. It cuts to this guy who's just sitting at a desk and says, according to such and such polls, rated R movies are the most grossing movies of all. And he says, so, from the producers to you, fuck you. So that was kind of gave me a chuckle because it's sort of the opposite of what happens nowadays in movies. They strive for PG-13 rather than R. So that was kind of funny. But the rest of the movie, the jokes are just terrible. Like, for instance, if you saw a dog meowing and then lifts up its leg and farts, would you laugh at that? No, you probably wouldn't. And if you do laugh at that, then this movie is right up your alley. So the first two-thirds are just a really bad horror movie spoof. Another joke would be, running joke in the movie, is that the killer, who we usually just see his boots as he's walking and approaching his victims, steps in some gum. And he goes, oh, why does this always happen to me? Did you find that funny? If you didn't, then this movie, again, is probably not for you. And while in the beginning of the movie, it shows the date. It says Friday the 13th, to spoof Friday the 13th movies. And then the following, it shows it says Jamie Lee Curtis's birthday. So again, when I first saw that, I was like, okay, this is a horror movie spoof, obviously. And so I thought this was going to be an actual horror movie, to be taken seriously. Like, maybe somewhat seriously, but a little tongue-in-cheek. But I at least expected, the horror element to be there, and it's not at all. Most of the killings you don't actually see, it cuts away, and most of the killings are incredibly silly. Like, someone gets killed with an eggplant. Now, this could be cool, if it was actually done stylistically and interestingly, but it's not. The killer just approaches this woman with an eggplant, and then she screams, and then it cuts away. And in the next scene, we just see her boyfriend approach her, and she's just laying on the floor, and there's an eggplant next to her. That's a death. That's one of the deaths in this movie. There's another death where a girl is killed with a paper clips, with a whole bunch of paper clips, and the kill if done creatively, could have been kind of cool. But no, the guy just pulls back the sheets of the covers, and she just has a whole bunch of paper clips in her face, and they don't even look like they're driven into her face. They just look like they're glued to her face in a very unconvincing manner. That's the kind of deaths that are in this movie. And you can tell that the scary movie movies were sort of influenced by this one, because there's a scene where the killer opens up this desk and sees all these weapons. He sees a gun, he sees a knife, he sees an axe, and he sees a paperclip, and he chooses the paperclip. And I believe in the scary movies there was a scene like that, but it dealt with the protagonist choosing a weapon, and I think she chooses a banana or something out of all these weapons. So yeah, you can sort of tell that the scary movies were influenced by this, but they're 1,000 times better when compared to this. Um, Another joke would be another prime example of the poor jokes that are in this movie, that are in the first two thirds, are a person is selling hot dogs at a football game, and he goes hot dogs, and he says, oh, and someone in the audience says, I'll have a hot dog, and he says, okay, he gives him a hot dog, and he says, do you want mustard? And he said, sure, and so he squirts mustard in his face. That, that's not even toilet potty humor. That's just juvenile, retarded humor. I mean, there are 1,000 jokes like that. I mean, and like I said, there are only about 4 jokes that are worth mentioning that I just told you. So I basically spoiled all the good parts of this movie. Now, the interesting part is that, about 2/3 through the movie, it actually tries to become a legitimate horror experience. It basically throws away all the sight gags and actually tries to pull together some sort of plot. And it sort of works. It sort of becomes a mediocre 80s horror movie. And there's sort of a sequence at the end that reminds me of the movie Carrie. But it doesn't manage to scrape itself together? No, I don't believe it does. Another annoying thing it does is that every time someone is killed, it has a counter, a pop-up, a counter on the screen that says, bing, it's been 1 kill, and it shows 1. And then it shows, and someone else's kill, it shows, bing, it's 2 kills. I guess this is sort of mocking, like, the body count on these, like, Friday the 13th, Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street type movies by counting the number of kills. I mean, what's the point of that? Is that funny? Do you find that funny if a movie did that? I sure wouldn't. I mean, it's mocking, it's source material, but it's just not done in a funny way. And it does that a lot throughout the movie. It has some sort of text on the screen, like pointing out the contrivances that are in horror movies. But it's just not funny. It doesn't do it in a funny way. And it's sort of spoon feeding us, the parody. Now, just because a horror movie is a comedy does not mean it has to skimp on the blood and gore. But the problem with this movie is that it does. Like I said, a lot of the deaths are just silly. Someone is beaten to death with a wooden horse for bookends, but you don't actually see it. And the person who is beaten to death with the bookends just looks goofily. She just is lying there and has a goofy look on her face. There's no blood whatsoever. It's just retarded. But, so what would I give this movie? I'd probably give it like 1.5 to 2 out of 5. I mean, I probably should be giving it lower, but it's just so bad that it's almost good. It's almost. I mean, yeah, but still, it just pales in comparison to even the scary movies, which is just pathetic. I mean, in fact, I think this is one of the earliest horror comedies out there. I may be wrong on that, but I can't think of any of those that came before this. As far as the directing and quality of the movie go, it reminds me a lot of another 80s horror movie called Slaughter High. Just in the quality and filming of it. It feels kind of adequate. It doesn't feel too cheap. But again, this movie is just not any good. I mean, it fails on the comedic level, and it sort of almost succeeds on the horror level. But then again, it's just a terrible horror movie.